Hey there, Laker fans. Welcome to another episode of Lakers Detailed. I'm your host, Vinay, with my co host, Raj. It is day three, Raj, of free agency. We have finally gotten some Laker news after 2 days of a lot of antsiness from the Lakers and Laker fans. The big news today was DeAndre Ayton ending up getting signed. He passed through waivers, and then there was like a 30-minute wait, and everybody was growing impatient. And then a stream of news about DeAndre Ayton choosing the Lakers was coming through, but everybody was really hesitant to accept the news until Shams finally tweeted out, and then we got official confirmation. So through
Yes.
3 days of free agency, the Lakers have signed Jake Laravia. They've let Dorian Finney-Smith go to Houston, and they've signed their starting center off of waivers, DeAndre Ayton. There's a lot of other stuff that's happened too, Raj, since we last potted. Some stuff with LeBron that we'll probably discuss too as well. But before we get into all of that, it is day three, the evening of day three. How do you feel? Where are you at with everything that's happened so far? Free agency wise.
I have no idea other than this feels like a relief.
Yeah.
And it's strange to be in that place, day three of free agency, but it feels like the core of the team was kind of hinging on the decision of DeAndre Ayton. Now, we will never know how much of this was decided a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Was it decided in the last 5 hours? No idea. But the result is the result. The Lakers get their guy. I would have loved to know, Vinay, in some alternate universe, what the other plan was, what contingency plan was in place in case you do not get DeAndre Ayton. But the Lakers get their guy. They get a starting center, a player that was described very interestingly in all the reports. My favorite one, I think, today, Vinay, was Chris Haynes putting Luka and DeAndre Ayton in the same sentence and saying, did he say building blocks for the future, the present and the future? Just perfect description, because that's exactly what DeAndre Ayton is. But yeah, no, it's exciting, and the Lakers get their guy, and hopefully we can start moving into different pieces of the roster. But this was step one, and they completed step one, and that's where we're at. We have a starting caliber center on the team.
Yeah, we got the number one pick overall of the 2018 draft, the same draft that Luka was in. And at $8 million for this season, it's a 1+1 that he basically signed. I think it's a great deal. Obviously, he has a player option for next year. I think that was part of the stipulation because he probably believes he's like a $20 million center. And so he's probably going to opt out next year and ask for more money, and the cap situation for the Lakers will be different. So it is. Rod, before we continue, shout out to all the folks that are up late tonight, wherever you guys are. I know this is a little bit later than we normally do it, but it's been a long day, I think, for everybody. And so we appreciate all the folks that are able to join via YouTube or via X. If you're joining via YouTube, hit the like, hit the subscribe, share your comments. We literally read everything that's in the chat, and we make sure that any questions or anything that comes up as it's pertinent, we definitely address it. And shout out to the folks that are part of the Detailers Club. Those are our monthly supporters through YouTube for the channel. Go ahead, Raj. We got DeAndre Ayton. We were discussing DeAndre Ayton for about 2 weeks before this news sort of came about. Obviously, we didn't know that it was going to happen this way, but we've discussed a lot. And one of the things that's been hitting my timeline quite a bit, Raj, has been conversation about DeAndre Ayton's attitude and his motor, and it's not been so. Okay, let's be very straightforward. Obviously, Laker fans are excited for DeAndre Ayton because we knew what we had before as a center, and it wasn't going to work, and that was a huge part of the reason why we lost it to Minnesota, I would say. But NBA Twitter loves to do this thing where anytime the Lakers sign somebody, like the first thing they want to go and do, and I feel like analysts do this too a lot, the NBA analysts, content creators, whatever you want to call them, like they just immediately start rattling off all the negative things about the player. And it's just like, for us, we're like, can he finish a pass? Can he finish a lob? Can he rebound the ball?
Bars low.
Yeah, I feel like we're looking at it different ways. So one of the things that's been coming out a lot, I've been seeing a lot of people talking about his attitude and stuff like that. Where are you at with all this? Like everything, like
Yeah.
because I feel like you're okay with taking that risk for the talent that you're getting in return.
This was a fun exercise I did today, Vinay. I went and looked this up. So I'll put you on the spot really quick.
Yeah.
This is fun. They're obviously first rounders get pretty good money nowadays. Yeah. How low in the draft do you think you have to go to get to what DeAndre Ayton is getting paid by the Lakers this season? So obviously it's going to be a first rounder.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe late lottery. Yeah.
It's the 7th pick. Who's
okay, mid lottery.
Something Fears. I forgot his first name. Jonathan Fears, I think. Is it Jonathan Fears?
Yeah, or Jeremiah Fears, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the 7th pick is basically, making DeAndre Ayton money next season, which is kind of wild where the NBA has gone in terms of money wise. But yeah, I mean, I think anyone would have said $8 million for DeAndre Ayton. And so there are still risks involved. You are relying on him in a way that is important. He's a key cog of your team. He's going to be a key cog of the defense that, you run, the schemes that you run. But I just can't see. I mean, the Lakers gave up no assets to do this.
Yep.
Other than Dorian walking, which allowed you to, give some of this to Jake Laravia and then give it to DeAndre Ayton. But yeah, $8 million for a starting center. He obviously has a player option for next season, something we also predicted would happen. I mean, that I think that was always going to be the case. Ayton was going to have some security for next season as well. And obviously we're expecting him, and hopefully he does outkick this contract. So he plays well next season. But yeah, the mood stuff is tough. There's like not conflicting, but there's some reports that he was a great mentor for Klingon when he got drafted last year. Obviously, same position, but was a guy that he took under his wing. And I think guys like this sometimes, Vinay, again, I'm not in Portland, not there. These type of guys sometimes can be misunderstood as well in terms of just the way that they are, their personalities, what makes them go, right? And I think in Phoenix, it kind of ran out his welcome. And in Portland, you had a weird situation, some weird stories, how he couldn't get to the game because of the snow.
Yeah.
Something you won't have to worry about here. So don't really have to worry about that. Had some comments about, the mattress is the reason why he wasn't, like, some weird stuff that comes out. But all in all, most Portland people say he had a pretty solid second, half or, second year with them where, he wasn't really causing trouble. And again, was a good mentor for the young bigs. But that's just the risk reward you have to take on these type of guys. If there's a reason why Ayton's not extended on his encumbered team, there's a reason why he's available, there's a reason why he got bought out. So I get the negatives, but Vinay, this is a very, very, very talented basketball player. And there's people who can beat him with a lot of stuff, motor, all that stuff is true, but the talent is unquestionable to me. So that's why you kind of have to take this risk. And again, if it doesn't work out, he's an expiring $8 million contract next year, and you both cut ties. This is a win-win to me in all cases. It's hard for me to focus on the negatives when he's making as little money as he is. Dude, are you with me on that?
Yeah. I feel like for the risk that you're taking, you're not going to find anything with that level of talent that you're going to get. Like it's just the risk is, I'm not going to say it's a low risk because it's still $8 million. You're using the balance of your non-taxpayer MLE, but like I don't think the risk is as bad as anybody else. And again, like if he ends up being kind of like a average center, like the Lakers literally needed an average center. We were masquerading, and it's not his fault, but we were like, Jackson is like a wingish size 4 that was masquerading as a 5 for the Lakers, and it's just not one of those things that was acceptable long term for the Lakers. So I think that's good. Were you gonna say something?
I was gonna say, let's get this out of the way. What's worst case scenario here, right? That's the thing I've been kind of thinking about. Worst case scenario, he's moody. I'm going through this exercise. I guess worst case scenario, unplayable, gets benched.
Yeah, you said it before. You said it really nicely. Yeah. He's facing basketball mortality. Like he's going to be 26 and play himself out of the league. If there's one thing that we know about the Laker fan base, we can make or break you. Like you can go from being a guy out the league to a $12 million, $10 million contract, or you can go from being a guy who was a former MVP and people then wishing you were in China instead afterwards. So like it
That's
can
a good
go
point.
either direction. So I think his agents wouldn't have encouraged him to come to LA if they didn't think he was serious about this situation, because he could really hurt himself in this situation if he's not locked in.
Yeah, no, I just mean like I guess, because I think a lot of people are kind of mentioning the moody outburst per se, or
Yeah.
the kind of unwillingness to do to have the motor necessary on a night to night basis. But yeah, I think this is a bet on the Lakers environment. This is a bet on your culture. This is a bet on
Mm-hmm.
having superstars that can hold him accountable. That's a reason I actually am very for the Al Horford thing. I'd love to have a big man mentor,
Mm-hmm.
someone that he can look at and, has a lot more cachet than him within the league. But yeah, to me, this is a win. And it's why everyone's like, oh, why are Laker fans like so desperate of DeAndre Ayton? It's like, this is the position we're in. Like, where all the other centers have been taken off of the market.
Yeah.
And Ayton was clearly the most talented left, and to get him at this price again and at this asset, where we would have kind of keep all of our assets. This is a win. So
Yeah, I mean, this has the direction of being like, honestly, there's two sides or maybe three sides of the coin. One is he was good, like he's been good for the Lakers. He's average or a slightly above average. That's fine. Or he could be incredible and people are gonna be pissed that we got him for as cheap as we got him. Or he could be awful and people will be like, "See, Laker fans, we told you so." Like, this is the issue. So it could go in any direction. But again, you're banking on the culture, Lakers culture, and accountability. The stuff that JJ Redick has installed in the locker room, and the fact that he's going to have guys who are going to be happy to give him the ball when he's in the paint, and trying to score and whatnot, and has those opportunities to score. Raj, if we just do the math, the non-taxpayer MLE math, we basically gave up Dorian Finney-Smith by letting him walk, for Ayton and Jake Laravia. One of the things I tweeted out, I think you had said also to some degree, if you're going to let DFS walk, what you do with that non-taxpayer MLE, you have to hit it. You have to hit on the margins with that. Do you feel comfortable saying that we hit on the margins by letting DFS walk?
I think so. I think one more, whatever the biennial exception player is, unless it's someone way out of left field, I think Dorian would be super helpful next year. And so I'm not trying to use hindsight as a, reasoning, kind of letting the results speak for the reasoning. But I do think getting three, again, it's still three potential rotation players, right? But three rotation level players for Dorian, who I think, Vinay, you've spoken about this about Rui, but I think Dorian also filled in a little bit of a minutes or a spot crunch where he plays a forward position. Obviously can play the small ball five, but and can move up to the three a little bit. But I think he's a four pretty much now in his career, especially at 33 years old. But yeah, no, I think this is a really nice pivot by the team. Again, how intentional this was, we'll never 100% know. But yeah, I think at least the talent, I'm high on Laravia. I think Ayton's talent speaks for itself. And again, we'll see what they do with the biennial. But this is as well as you could probably do by losing your main free agent that you needed to re-sign. And so, yeah, I think this is as well as you could do, but I'm still looking for what they do with that final kind of $5.1 million that they have to offer. But where we were 2 days ago, Vinay,
huge difference.
This is a huge difference.
Yeah. And I think this, I think the fact that they were waiting on Ayton was it was a big deal, because they were probably like, we have to make sure this is completely set in stone before we do anything else. Obviously they signed Jake, and we're going to talk about him in a little bit, in a second, but
yeah,
I think this was a very, very big piece. We shouldn't discount probably the agent influence. You and I have always talked about how agents do have a lot of authority. Like Luka and Ayton having the same agent, Bill Duffy, and I think Nima Namakian. I'm not sure if I pronounced your last name right, but those two folks were involved, and I'm sure there was discussions. Hey, Luka, can you play with this guy? Ayton, are you okay with playing with him? JJ, are you okay? Can you make it work? Blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. Like, I'm sure all of that stuff was involved too, to some degree. So it's I'm glad that it worked out. I think it is an opportunity for the Lakers not to have to do a full reset. Obviously, Luka doesn't force you to do a full reset, but it is a huge part. You basically have your two anchor points of the modern NBA offense, your point guard and your center, basically set in stone to some degree, assuming Ayton reaches kind of the potential he had in Phoenix. And if he does that, that's a great place to start from. We already have Austin Reeves and a bunch of other guys. And we haven't discussed the old man yet. And we'll get to him too, as well.
Yeah.
But the other guy that the Lakers landed, the first move that they made, was a guy by the name of Jake Laravia. We signed him. He was with the Sacramento Kings. We signed him for about $6 million a year. I think we gave him a player option too as well. Again, expected. Shares the same agent as Austin Reeves.
Austin. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so again, those agents, they always pop up somehow, bringing their clients over. But you watched some tape on him, Raj. I haven't dove into Laravia's tape, but you have. What sticks out to you about him?
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of what we wanted Rui to be, kind of, right? Like it feels like we've been pushing Rui down, or down up a peg in terms of what he actually is. Rui is a 4 masquerading as a 3 on the Lakers for a lot of his minutes. Laravia to me is a actual small forward. He moves that way. He has the smoothness of one. He has the handle of one. The way he relocates for threes, vinay. Like Rui, I think, is a very good spot up shooter. Like if Rui's feet are set, I'm pretty confident Laravia can backpedal into threes. He can hit threes off dribble handoffs, right? He can attack closeouts. And I think the Lakers have been looking for this player for a while. But when Austin took his jump, Vinay, 2 years ago, whenever it was, he was kind of the connector player, the connective tissue, and then he made that jump into on ball kind of creator, star player. And I don't think we ever filled that role behind him. Like the person behind him never got into that. That's what Laravia is. If you look at his shot chart, it's all shots in the paint, all threes, very much colors inside the lines, which has there's a level of versatility that sometimes is missing there. But he's a guy that 100% knows who he is. 42% from 3 last year, on kind of low volume with the Kings and Grizzlies. Weird season for him, got traded at the trade deadline. But I think this is a really nice bet at $6 million per season. He has a really nice defense. He has really nice defensive kind of advanced numbers. Not a shot blocker, doesn't get a ton of steals, but just in the right place at the right time. 6'7", like nice, has really nice strength. Average athlete, I'd say. But my favorite part about him, he finishes at the basket. He's like a 67% finisher at the rim. So like, again, this is a nice piece to a team. I'd guess he comes off the bench on their second unit, but just a really nice offensive fit for a team. I think that's been missing this exact player, right? We've tried to fill that in different ways, but Laravia is a legit, like, he has like really great shot, pass, drive, decision making. Like it's instant. Doesn't hold the ball. It never sticks. Not a guy you have to run any type of actual plays for. Don't need a clear side for him. Can run some pick and roll, but just really fun. Offensive talent, and like you said, it doesn't hurt that his agent is the same one as Austin Reeves. I'm sure that helps as well.
That usually works out. Yeah. So I've watched some of. I was sitting watching some of his tape. Not his tape, but like his highlights with the coaches den guys when they play it on their playback. So I haven't watched his technical stuff, so it's just been purely highlights. So it's always going to be good stuff, making shots and all that sort of stuff. So once I look into his technical ability, I'll probably get a better idea of what's going on. So I have a question for you, Raj. Chat, you know how I like to ask Raj these questions, because I get a very organic answer. I did this with the Ayton Rob Williams comparison. Yes. So I want to ask you a question, Raj. Some birdies were at my window the other day, and they decided to tell me some things.
You speak pigeon or something like that?
I speak bird. Yeah, I speak bird. We were chatting, and an idea was presented to me that Jake Laravia wasn't necessarily brought in to be Dorian Finney-Smith replacement. because they actually don't do the same thing at all. Dorian's more of a catch and shoot 3 guy and rugged physical defender, defensive communicator. All of his strengths, Dorian Finney-Smith's strengths, lean on the defensive end, whereas Laravia's are a little bit more. He's a good defender, effort defender, but he's probably more offensively inclined than he is. So I say, yeah, you're right. That sounds like a pretty accurate way of saying it. They say, you shouldn't look at him as a Dorian Finney-Smith replacement. You should look at him as a Dalton Knecht replacement. And I said, I didn't think of that. And when I thought about it some more, I realized that there might be some merit to that, because you essentially have a guy who would play the same role that maybe Dalton would be playing for the Lakers if he played regular minutes. Now, I'm not saying they can't play together, but you run into this situation where you get a little bit of redundancy in terms of where they'll be standing on the court, what's going to happen when the ball actually gets passed to them. Dalton's going to shoot it or look to score. Laravia might do the same thing. And we do have this. We do know that Dalton, at some point, the Lakers were willing to trade him for a center. So we know that he's been traded and then brought back. And I know he told you that he's going to play on the Summer League team. I think he got announced today.
Yes.
On the Summer League roster. And before I continue, I apologize to Silver Screen and Roll, because I told everybody it was a Clutch Points article and it was a Silver Screen and Roll article, and everybody in the Discord is like, dude, Vinay, what are you doing? So I'm sure the SSR guys are like, this idiot said the wrong. But yeah. So read Raj's interview with Dalton Knecht on SSR. But my question to you is it possible that Jake Laravia is a replacement for Dalton Knecht in the scenario that Dalton Knecht gets traded?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see it. What's interesting, I think Dalton might even be older, which is, interesting about, Laravia is obviously more experienced. He just had his 3rd season in the league, while Dalton obviously had his first. But I could see where Laravia is kind of, if you would have Dalton at his most optimized role on the Lakers, it probably looks kind of like what Laravia does, right? A lot more quicker decisions, high IQ basketball. I'm not saying Dalton can't get there, but just the experience that's missing within that. I could see that. I lean more. They just were able to get Laravia at the deal that it was. I'm guessing the Kings also had that deal on the table for him, and he chose the Lakers, is what I'm assuming, which is why Chris Haynes tweeted out that he was returning to the Kings before. That was
score one for the Brown guys. Dude, Shams got that right. I was just like, oh my God, I hope Shams is not wrong. This is not going to look good for us.
I don't think Shams needs our points anymore. I think he's run the table on the scoreboard. But no, like I can see where they look at him and don't trust Dalton next season, to put it nicely, in that role. That Dalton, like you said, it got announced today. He'll be on the Summer League roster. So I'm not sure he'll play all the games, probably 2-3 games, and they'll be done with him. Bronny also announced on that team as well, but I could see it. Laravia is the better version of what the Lakers needed from Dalton last season, and I can see where they can go with that. And again, at the $6 million price tag, that's just a really good deal. It's a good bet for both of them. Laravia gets a place with a lot more spotlight, a lot more attention. I'm guessing more minutes. He averaged around 7 points, Vinay, and I believe 3 or 4 rebounds. The Lakers are kind of betting on more minutes. That production goes up while the efficiency stays the same. And I think that's a pretty good bet. But yeah, again, I would be sad if Dalton, not just because I spoke to him, I'd be sad if Dalton was another first round pick casualty.
Sure.
I would say, right? Of just giving up on a player. If we get something good for him, I think that's what you're kind of alluding to within the bird talk. But yeah,
bird talk. I just like you call it bird talk.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm still hopeful on Dalton, but Laravia looks like he's gonna, he's kind of ready for the position the Lakers need next year. Well, Dalton may, take some time to kind of grow into that.
Yeah. So I'm just very curious, because I feel like we're in this situation now where we have a few guys that are now there's too many guys in the same position, and or going to be playing sort of the same role. You know what I mean? So it's just with DFS out and us drafting Adu, like it makes sense that he can kind of step into that defensive role. But when you add a guy like Jake, again, not that it's bad to have more scoring and shooting and players that can be threats with the ball in their hands. But how do you allocate minutes for a team that already has a bunch of guys that are going to shoot the ball as it is? And so that's just one of, like, where do we balance out the roster, move away a little bit from the offensively inclined to the more defensively inclined? So I'm curious to see if the Lakers are still going to explore moving Dalton, or seeing if Dalton brings back, there's been names that have been floated out there. Yves Missi with the New Orleans Pelicans has been mentioned. The Pelicans are signing centers, trading for centers, even though they drafted Yves Missi. So like maybe he becomes available, maybe somebody else becomes available that we don't expect. So it'll be very interesting. But now we have DeAndre Ayton. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that situation.
We had to get another white guy to replace the white guy, I guess.
There's a quota, complexion quota. You got to have 1, 2, 3. You got to have you got to have the American whites, and you got to have the Euro whites, and then there's you got to hit all the other ones. So it's just one of those things. Every team's got them, so you got to balance it out. So obviously, Lakers have signed. They've done pretty well with the non-taxpayer MLE. We're gonna see what they're gonna do with the BAE. It's been rumored that they might give it to Al Horford. It's rumored that D'Anthony Melton might be a candidate for that. There's also rumors that a guy like D'Anthony Melton might just be worth only a veteran minimum. It's very clear that Al Horford's waiting to be offered, or waiting to decide on who he's going to join. That's because I think the Warriors are trying to get him too as well. And then in Melton's case, I think he's just waiting for opportunity. If he's trying to make money, he's probably going to go to the team that gives him the best opportunity to get minutes and have a role. Go ahead.
If you had to pick one, Vinay, same money. I'm guessing both are going to make more than the minimum because they have multiple suitors. That's usually what happens when the team has multiple suitors. I'm just speculating. But if you had to pick Horford or Melton, if it was one, I know the dream package is both of them, obviously, but is there one you prioritize within that? I go back and forth. I think if I had a final say, I would lean Melton. But I would love having Horford. I think as a mentor for Ayton, and just a level of stability, not just locker room wise, but on the court, still very productive. For you, any of those two, who would you prioritize? I guess in those two.
Yeah, honestly, I think I would probably lean Horford, mainly because I think having a guy who can talk defense, communicate, coach up the younger guys on the team defensively is a really big deal. I know he's very advanced in age. That is a huge concern for me. And I think 39. Melton ability wise is really important. But that you can't underestimate the human element of basketball, of like the value of having a locker room, like a real locker room professional that can help teach these guys how to get through really, really tough games. I'm reading Paul's comment. We're going to discuss that, Paul, in a second. But
oh man,
I can see it going both ways. See, now if Melton was like the guy before the injury, you could tell. You could sway me and say he could be like a starting. He could be our starting 2 or whatever, you know what I mean? Like this starting next to us, which is going to lead me to our next conversation. So I'm with you. Horford, Melton, I think is a tough thing. I wanted to ask you a question, Raj. We got Ayton. That's great.
Yes.
We're happy. But now we have 3 tweeners, small forward, power forwards in our starting lineup. And I have a concern that our foot speed is going to be a little bit of an issue with that many guys. And also, I feel like our starting lineup is way too offensively imbalanced. I think Ayton's a good defender. I think Austin defends with effort. I think Braun is really great in that capacity too as well when he wants to be. Luka, we would hope, is in better shape and conditioning, so he can lock in on that end too as well. But we don't really have a true defensive guy in that starting lineup. Do we need to find is like the next thing? Obviously, backup center is an important thing that we want too as well. The Lakers, from what I've heard, are trying to land their backup center via trade. So we'll see how that works out. As the birdies would like to tell me, they're trying to do it that way so they don't have to use their biannual exception on a center. Ideally, they want to do it via trade. So we'll see if that works out for Lakers. But if let's say we figure that part out, let's say it's either the BAE or it's the we do it via trade. I am of the mind that we have to find a really like a guy whose calling card is on the defensive end for that starting lineup. Is that a fair way to go about thinking what that next step needs to be?
Yeah, unless you trust Vando next season, which I've seen his name start to refloat again in terms of people trusting him for minutes next season. I think you have to go trade for a wing that can guard. That's where I think Melton is so attractive in this sense, where I think he can really defend at the guard position. I don't know, when is he back? Is he back? Is he or he was?
I haven't seen it, but I'd assume he'd be ready by training camp. He tore it like at the start of last season, so he should be already way back.
Should be ready. Okay. Yeah. But no, I think you need a starting caliber wing within that, and you canvas the league. It feels like Wiggins is the only real guy that matches a lot of the things that the Lakers are looking for. His contract expires in 2027. Matches the 2020 the terrible plan, but the 2027 plan that they've kind of outlined here. But yeah, and I think that's the elephant in the room. It's really Rui has to be moved. You just signed Laravia. Obviously, we're going to the season assuming LeBron's on the team by training camp. I think that's a safe assumption for now. But even with that being said, even with LeBron, I still think you need some foot speed, you need some athleticism, and I think that's where Rui for a wing that has a little bit more athlete to him just makes a lot of sense. And again, I think the Wiggins stuff, a lot of smoke. We'll see if the Lakers give up the whatever Miami is asking for him. They've been known to be tough negotiators, but I think that's the final piece. Vinay, I think the bar this summer was not too high. It was a starting center and one more wing that defends, and you've got half of that. And I think they have obviously the backup centers within that you spoke about, but is there another name, Vinay, that you would? I'm trying to think. Wiggins is the only one I could think that's in the Lakers' asset range of what they'd want to give up, right? Herb Jones is a name, but I doubt you get him without completely tearing down your asset in terms of Austin and all that. And anyone else? Troy Murphy, same boat to me within that. Matisse Thybulle, you can go get maybe from Portland, makes around 11 million, I believe.
I think the guy that got traded to Chicago, if Chicago's not keen on keeping him, Isaac Okoro is another guy. Okoro is another guy that they could look at. I think
he's a little lower than those two are Josh Okogie and Okoro, a little lower than I think the baseline that I would like that position to reach. I don't know. Okogie is fine. Okogie to me is more of an energy defender, right? In terms of comes in and creates chaos. Okoro is a little bit higher on the list, but same kind of deal to me. Wiggins is more of a starting caliber. I can throw you on Brandon Ingram for a game and you can make it tough. I could throw you on Donovan Mitchell and you can make it tough, right? That's the kind of player I think the Lakers need. And Wiggins is the only guy, Vinay, that I can think of that matches the Lakers' needs versus what Miami would want. I think this is where Dalton comes into play a little bit, maybe, but I can't think of a different name that matches the Dillon Brooks. That's interesting. I see that from the chat. Not sure. Dillon Brooks. I really don't want to watch a team that I have to root.
So I mean, in terms of technical ability, Dillon Brooks is a really good option. He's a great option.
Awesome. Yes.
The personalities. Dillon Brooks is in the what I like to call he's in the circle of defenders where the personality becomes sometimes more than the basketball, and that ends up hurting the team in ways. Guys like Pat Beverly kind of fall in that category. Like Isaiah Stewart, they can be good, but once something goes wrong in a game or it gets testy, the personality just takes over and they can kind of hurt the team, disrupt the rhythm of the team. that all of a sudden people are getting technical fouls and now, you know, you lose momentum, stuff like that. So I'm not against Dillon Brooks either, but I just, you know,
a lot of main character syndrome a little bit, where we're in a playoff series and Dillon Brooks decides,
I need to get in your head.
Yes,
like it's my job. Yeah,
I'm having a one-on-one with name a superstar. So that's kind of my one of my concerns. But he's a hell of a culture setter. Like that dude plays every night hard with motor, which may ruffle some feathers, but so I'm not trying to diminish Dillon Brooks' impact on the team, and I think he's going to be good for Phoenix. Honestly, I think they need that kind of push. But yeah, Dillon Brooks is a great name from the chat. But again, I just keep coming back to Andrew Wiggins. Just makes a lot of sense. He's very Ayton-ish, Vinay, too. It's weird, right? Both of them are kind of in this boat. Both number one picks, by the way. Very interesting. So Chris Haynes want to put out involve Wiggins in that as well. The 2000, what draft was Wiggins?
I don't know. 2007? I don't know. I have no clue.
That 7? No, that he's
no,
not
that's
that
bronze.
old.
That's bronze draft.
Yeah, that's way too far. But in any case, yeah. So him and Ayton kind of are similar in that, in terms of, there's motor questions, but yeah. Thank you, George. 2014. But can you think? That's a small list. Dillon Brooks, Andrew Wiggins, Okoro, like you mentioned, Okogie, like you mentioned, Tybal. Those don't excite me as much. But no, to answer your question, yes, I think Rui has to be moved for some type of defensive player if we're going to be serious next season. That's also something I could see them pushing towards the deadline if they don't like the deals that are in front of them. But yeah, I'm with you. That's the next move.
Yeah, so I think that's a very difficult situation that the Lakers are going to try and figure out. I don't think it's going to be something that's easy for the Lakers to figure out, largely because of the guy that we're about to talk about. And I think the Lakers, if they land the backup center via trade, will have some time to try and figure out who that wing guy is going to be. And I think most of the times when you get like a 3-and-D guy like that, it's a little easier to kind of plug and play those guys in. And I think one of the things that we have discussed before is how JJ values high IQ guys. So if you go for like a 3-and-D wing guy, I think JJ is going to really evaluate that player. Like, does he fit in seamlessly with the starting group? Like, is this a guy who knows where to be, how to move, that sort of thing when he's playing next to Luka and Austin and Braun?
Yeah, I think Wiggins grew up a lot in Golden State, not just from a maturity standpoint, but from a basketball standpoint. That dude is one of the best cutters in the league. Like his understanding of, when a guy is cheating, defending him, getting floaters. He's an elite floater guy. His corner three and just spot up 3-point shooting as taking a jump, which, was kind of a question when he got traded there for D'Angelo Russell, our old bud. So it's a small world. But yeah, I'm super high on Wiggins' fit alongside stars. ST Hydra saying he's not a winning player. They won the championship with him starting and arguably being the second or third most important piece within that. I thought he was awesome in the finals against Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum was a guy that they can throw on either wing. Super talented, just an athlete, high motor when he's right, can has a lot of stamina. But I think Wiggins is the guy. But hey, that's the only one that I can think of.
Yeah, that player has to be an athlete, right?
Yes.
Like technical ability obviously matters, but like I would say like the two qualities that you have to have in that position, it has to be a guy with a great defensive motor, and he has to be a great athlete, because that is a guy who's going to have to go up against the Anthony Edwards, the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders, the Devin Bookers, whoever you can think of, the big premier guards, big guards, Cade Cunninghams, those guys in the NBA.
Before we have almost like 4,000 people in here, and they're in here for like one reason. And so before we get to the
one reason, they're not here for
I mean, the main reason is the Lakers got DeAndre Ayton, and I don't think we got to dive into his on-court stuff, Renee. So talk to me the excitement of having him just as an offensive talent from what we've had in the previous years. I think this is a colossal canyon-sized jump in terms of talent. excluding Anthony Davis, of course. I'm not putting AD in there, but DeAndre Ayton as a switch beater, a guy that you cannot switch against because he punishes those. He's efficient. He's efficient in the mid range. His shot chart is green in places that centers aren't. Talk to me just the basketball excitement of having an offensive talent like this to pair with our ball screen creators.
Yeah, he is an excellent dance partner for Luka. Anybody who wants to run pick and roll with, he is a guy that, as I watched him, is very okay with going in and delivering screens over and over again, multiple screens at times, setting a screen, resetting the screen on the same possession if he has to. He is a guy where if he sees the open lane in front of him, when he's running pick and roll, he will crash to the rim hard. He has good hands. He has a good touch around the rim. You mentioned his mid-range before. He doesn't take too many mid-range. I don't think he takes like a ton of mid-range jump shots. Sometimes he favors it a little bit too much, but his touch in the painted area is really, really great. He is not a big that will just constantly bruise you to the rim. He will beat you with finesse, which is a great thing. We want more skill-based guys. This is one of the best offensive centers the Lakers have gotten like in recent history, period. Like in just terms of ability to do stuff with the ball, like he's just one of those guys. And we've got him at such a young age. Like usually you're like Marc Gasol, is a guy that we had who is skilled, but obviously he's like so old. You know what I mean? And one of the things that I'm excited about with Ayton is his understanding of how to move in space. Like this is pick and roll. You and I have chatted about this. Like pick and roll is quite literally a dance. Like you have to be able to dance with the person who has the ball, and you almost have to. Your brain has to become one. You have to know what it is that they're trying to do. And Luka is so crafty and so sneaky with the stuff that he does that you have to have a guy who can dance with him and really hurt opposing defenses in the way that they want. And so, we've talked about the moodiness. I showed the clip on the timeline about us talking about how his moodiness might affect his motor because he's not being involved. I don't think he's going to get an opportunity to be not be involved in on this Lakers team because look, Austin's a great player. He's a great isolation player, and he can beat guys off the dribble from time to time, but he needs screens. Luka at times, depending on what point in the game it is and how his jump shot's going, he needs screens. So Ayton's going to be involved a lot, and I'm excited to see him get an opportunity to really kind of. Everybody's talking about him changing his character, like all the bad stuff that people have said about him. But I think this is a really great opportunity for him to kind of remind people of how good of an offensive player he really is. Like Raj, the ceiling for him next season is he can make it to the All-Star game as a big. Like I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. He averages like close to 20 and 10, like 18 and 10. Like you could argue that he might make it, and the Lakers have a good record. He might be an All-Star center tomorrow in a Lakers jersey.
That's a good point. I'm going through, I guess, West centers, obviously Jokic. That's tough to
Sabonis. Sabonis usually gets it.
Sabonis, yeah. Oh man,
because of the stats.
Yeah, Sacramento. By the way, I have no idea.
Oh, Wemby's gonna get it, dude. Unless Wemby gets placed as a. Is it front court? It's front court, back court, right?
Yeah, I think they removed the center. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, AD. Yeah. How am I forgetting? Anthony Davis. Yeah. AD. Oh, Zoo. Yeah, Zoo. But to your point, those are not AD, but Zoo is a guy that maybe he can maybe possibly battle if the numbers are correct. No, but I think taking people back to 2021 in the playoffs, it's very easy, and I think correctly, to headline that series of Anthony Davis getting hurt. Totally understand that. People forget, Vinay, that team was the number one defense walking in without AD and LeBron missing large chunks because they had very high-skilled defensive guards. Alex Caruso, KCP, right, were some of the names that did really well. Ayton was incredible in that series. And part of that was the dance that you're talking about was obviously Chris Paul and Devin Booker being mid-range threats, forced the Lakers to do a lot of switching, right? They had AD coming out, and Ayton punished our guards, KCP, Caruso, anyone. He put them in pretty much inside the basket on post seals, fronts, jump hooks with either hand. And that's part of it where I think against Minnesota, you saw a lot of the, them being able to switch on our bigs. We obviously didn't play Jackson a ton, but McDaniels being able to guard the center spot, right? We didn't really have a post presence inside presence, a pick and roll partner for Luka as a roll man. Luka, when he gets blitz, that mid-range little area, that's where Ayton is a killer. Again, when he's right and he's aggressive, just a super talented offensive big. I'm so excited to kind of dive into him. There's going to be headaches. Like this is just par for the course. There's going to be some upsetting, annoying plays that he does. There's going to be some times where he doesn't get back in transition all the way. There's going to be some times where JJ Redick is screaming in his face going into a timeout. That's just something that's going to happen. But the offensive talent is just tantalizing. And I said it when we spoke a few weeks ago. You brought this up to me, and I got to look at the tape and, change my mind a little bit. 26-year-old with playoff finals experience, that's the center spot starting, that just does not exist, especially at the contract he is and the talent he is. Reports already come out. Luka is excited to play with DeAndre Ayton. However, they got that quote, but that has starting to come out and come into the public. But I think we got a really exciting, talented center on our roster for. Should be exciting season next year, but they got the center. That was the job this summer.
So Raj, I'm just gonna float this out to you. If the Lakers got a guy like, I don't know, Nick Richards as their backup center, would you be happy with the center combination that we have going into the regular season?
I think so. I think Nick is a guy the Lakers wanted. I think last season the Suns traded, I believe, 3 second-rounders to go get him, and then their season. I think they just had the worst culture in the league last year in terms of team belief, understanding with their coach. But no, Nick Richards, I think, is a really nice young. I think he's young, 23,
young.
24.
I think he's under 27, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah, but a little bit more size to him. I believe I got to go watch some Nick Richards, more Nick Richards tape. But I think that's a fine center combination. And the backup center to me is something you can more or less go and fill at the deadline or survive with, if you can. But I think that's a hell of a place than we were 2-3 days ago, where we're kind of wondering where we're at. All the centers have been plucked up by other teams. So if you can go get a Nick Richards and you have DeAndre Ayton, maybe one more third big, whether that's somewhere on the market, whether that's my guy Koloko, whatever it is, just
could be.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Ayton and Nick Richards, the exact type of bigs I think you would want. I think both of them are lob threats that have some size with them. But that's a nice center by committee, at least. Two guys you can possibly play together. You can also continue to play small if you want to, with LeBron or whoever at the center position. But I think that's a great start and a great place to walk into the season with Nick Richards and DeAndre Ayton. Much better than we had last year. Maybe Jackson Hayes comes back. Who knows?
I wonder if Jackson would be like that third center, like a guy who's like a third center, but also like a 4 when you kind of need him to be a 4. Because I know we experimented.
He's also Bill Duffy, I believe.
He is Bill Duffy too, as well. So that would be interesting to see.
That might matter just a little bit.
So obviously, we're excited for Ayton. We're excited for Laravia. There was some positional stuff that we had to figure out with the team and figure out what's going on. But prior to all of this, there was a lot of hoopla over the weekend about LeBron James opting into his extension. And Rich Paul saying some stuff about, where LeBron wants to be at his career and where the Lakers are at their career, which was fine. You and I did a pod about it. We shared some thoughts. Mainly I shared some thoughts about why maybe what Rich Paul said was not a good idea, because it sounds a little combative with what it is that the Lakers want to do. And then since then, Raj, the very next day, there was a slew of stuff that came out. Rich Paul saying there was a report that came out that said that LeBron James's camp had let Luka know and the Lakers camp know that this was going to be the statement that he was going to say, so nobody was caught off guard. Initially, there was a lot of like, whoa, why is LeBron doing this? And then I think naturally Laker fans had like sort of this early in the day, Laker fans had like this whole like, why does LeBron want to leave? Well, he's playing with Luka. Why not give it a chance? And then I think the folks that are in LeBron's camp were like, LeBron's just applying pressure to the front office and all that stuff like that. But then at the end of the day, Raj, Shams, who did I think his final appearance for the night on ESPN, just basically came out and said LeBron wants to compete for a championship. It's either going to be with the Lakers or it's going to be with somebody else, and kind of left it at that. And whether you want it to be, him applying pressure on the Lakers or whatever it's supposed to be, we don't have to get into those details. But that's sort of a line drawn in the sand here. And we don't have to go over everything that we talked about before. But I feel as though some of the rest of the moves, getting a guy like Nick Richards, maybe moving Dalton, getting a guy like Wiggins, that kind of stuff, I don't think is affecting that. I will say this. I do think like trading Rui in a deal becomes a little more complicated for the Lakers if they don't know if LeBron is going to be here next year or not. Because if LeBron is not here next year, well, Rui is kind of a little bit of insurance for a guy if you need a body the same size as LeBron, not to do what LeBron does, but just a body that does what LeBron does. Do you think there's a little bit of limitation because of this situation with LeBron, or do you think the Lakers should just operate as if he's not going to be here?
Well, I don't get
don't say anything that's going to get you in trouble because that's purely my responsibility.
No, I know. No, for sure. So Brian Windhorst came on TV today, and I thought he made a pretty strong statement. So the Lakers are looking at LeBron as a expiring contract. This is LeBron James that he's saying the Lakers are looking at as an expiring contract. I don't think he's doing it with malice in terms of trying to combat the two, but I think that is very informative in how I think both of them are looking at this, not just from the Lakers, but from LeBron's perspective as well. LeBron has made no indications that he's retiring after this season. He has made no indications of he will just extend blindly with the Lakers either. And the Lakers have also, it feels just from the reporting from Rich Paul and from what reporting is going on, the Lakers have also made their goals public, and not public, but known to the parties that need this type of information, that we are not selling all our stuff this summer. We are keeping the bank full, and we are aiming for a season where you will be 43. And so, not to put that in tough, strange words, but that's essentially what they're saying with the 2027. Now, they have not publicly come out and said they're aiming for 2027, but the contracts that they've given and not taken have kind of, complied a lot of that. I find this all fascinating. This may be, I don't know, maybe we disagree. I don't think Rui favors too much in that plan, right? In the 2027 plan, I think Rui is more fungible in what they'll go and get. I think Wiggins is just better than Rui Hachimura, and so
and he only has an extra year, so you could trade for him. And if he opts out, then you got the cap space that you were always getting to begin with. You just got, or if he opts in, he might be an extra salary. Like you still have the 2027 cap space available. Right. If you trade for Wiggins, so that might not be an issue.
Right.
Can I say this? So a lot of people have been very upset. So Dave McMenamin wrote that report, and I think at the very end of it is where he wrote about the Lakers wanting to keep the 2020. That's where the 2027 cap space idea came from. I'm pretty sure it was Dave McMenamin who wrote it.
It was, and then people read into the contracts which have supported that. Right. Laravia also has a 1+1, which
it's a 2-year, but 2027 will be wide open. So a lot of people are upset by that, and they're upset that, and I've seen people record videos. Some videos of people speaking have been recorded and sent in our chat and stuff like that. And people are very upset about that 2027 thing. I just want to say this. I don't think the Lakers are targeting a free agent in 2027. I don't think they're keeping their cap space open for I know they're saying that. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think the person that they're targeting is going to be available before 2027. And there's a good chance that player is going to ask out of the franchise that he's playing for. And so the Lakers want to make sure that their cap sheet is somewhat clean so that they can absorb that player and be able to build out from there. I'm hoping that's what that is. But I think everybody's kind of looked at the 2027 landscape, like which free agents are available that you're trying to save your money for.
Right.
In the modern NBA now, most teams, I mean, free agents don't just leave. Like they ask for a trade to whatever team they want to go to because it's beneficial to the team that they're leaving to do something like that. And you leave on better terms. Kevin Durant famously has done it twice now, I think, where he's orchestrated that.
Yeah, and so we didn't talk about this, but maybe related. The Bucks waived a 2-year, $110 million contract to eat $22 million on their books for the next 5 seasons. To go grab Miles Turner, a player I like, player that I wish the Lakers move for. I'm not sure that cost risk was correct, but it's going to get them Giannis for at least the next season, I'm assuming. So we'll see where that goes, and that's more for flexibility. But the question I want to ask you is, okay, let's say the 2027 is the plan. How do you, I guess, also attack a season with Luka Doncic at 26, 27? You know what I mean? I think that's the place most people are confused with the wording.
Yeah.
Confused with the language. It doesn't help, again, when LeBron James's team is making it known that we're trying to compete, and we are unsure if that is what they want to do. If Luka was 22, I think this is a much different conversation, but Luka in 2027 is 28, and so not old, obviously, but or no, he'd be 29 because he's 27 now, I believe. But in any case, so how would you how do you separate that, like the idea of we're still trying to contend, but we're also going to only keep contracts for 2 years to keep our books clean?
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I'm not in agreement that that's the way that you should go about doing it. Honestly, Roger, I don't think they should ever declare that out loud. This whole like we're trying to keep
and to be clear, they have not. They have not.
It was just written.
That.
It wasn't.
Yes.
Nobody's openly come out and said it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, nobody's come out and said we're trying to keep cap space open for 2027. It's just something that was written. And obviously you assume it's sourced because that's usually what's mentioned in the article. So I wouldn't do that. I certainly wouldn't say that I'm trying to keep cap space open for any specific situation like that. That's why I keep thinking to myself, I don't think the Lakers are actually trying to do that. I think they're probably trying to find, who the next guy is supposed to be paired with Luka. I think DeAndre Ayton helps shore up a lot of stuff if he's the guy that we want him to be next to Luka. It makes it easier to find, maybe it's not a guy who does all the stuff that LeBron does. Maybe it's a guy who's more defensively oriented, but he's like really, really good defensively. Maybe it's, I'm using the example, so I don't want to get it confused, but let's say Scotty Barnes became available one day, and Toronto says, you know what, we got to move Scotty Barnes. We're going to give up whatever we want. Like maybe the Lakers want to be in position to have Scotty Barnes be their starting 3 next to Luka, or their starting 4 next to Luka. At some point, like something like that. So who knows what sort of situations can come about. But yeah, I wouldn't do that. I don't think you can consolidate those two things. You can't do that. We're trying to keep cap space open while also trying to compete at the same time. Like it just, you have to commit to one direction. They're doing it with this Luka thing, so I don't see any reason why you can't do that. With your salaries too as well.
I'm not conspiracy, but my thought is next summer is more the aggressive summer, and it's also when I believe their first round draft picks kind of replenish in terms of what they're able to trade. I think they go from 1 first to 3 or whatever.
The offsetting from the odd years to the even years.
Yeah, right. And so that is what I believe is happening. I just cannot. There is no. I'm not refuting any reporting that's going on. It's just logically, I'm thinking about this. There's just no way in the world that anybody, I don't care who you are, can go to Luka Doncic and sell him on. In 2 years, we got you. Don't you? You sit tight. Well,
and he has an extension coming up. Like no,
right.
I don't think
so. So there has to be some cohesive plan that is kickstarted for at the minimum next season. Maybe not this season. You can probably sell him on this is what we're doing this year. We got a really nice big man running mate for you. This team won 50 games last year. Obviously, the LeBron piece is shocking to deal with. Yeah. And so I'm sure that I'd love to know, Vinay, how the Lakers just are operating with under that umbrella, because that's a very interesting umbrella to work under. With it's just from the outside perspective, it's an interesting umbrella where in I've spoken about this with other people where LeBron's probably in on a lot of the decisions that are happening, but I'm not sure he's getting approval for them, right? That I think there's a difference, right? There's a difference between going to get LeBron's approval for a move versus letting him in on what you're doing. Those are two different things. And so I'm curious how far that line has crossed, right? And so I think about 4 years ago it was can we go get DeAndre Ayton? And I think in 2025 is, hey, we're getting DeAndre. You know what I mean? And so, and these aren't combative. These aren't special to the Lakers. This is just how business works. This is how relationships evolve. I'm just so fascinating how this umbrella and this cloud kind of gets solved in a summer that's just kicked off. But yeah, LeBron's people are shutting down the trade, which I totally understand. But these quotes aren't nothing. LeBron doesn't put out stuff just to put him out.
He's publicly declaring it. Like Raj, I don't want to harp on it too much because
I'm not trying to either, but it's connected for sure.
You have to discuss it. It's every single time in the 8 years that LeBron has been here, every single time he has even joked about leaving the Lakers, it has resulted in a conversation. Like we find out quite literally a week later that Jeannie and Rob went and sat down with Bron and Rich Paul and like just asked him, do you want to move? Are you trying to be traded? Like, are you unhappy about something? And even when he's joked about it publicly, like that famously, I think the last time was when the All-Star game was in Cleveland and he did with Joe Varden. I think he did an interview where he joked about, he like just off the cuff made a joke about, oh, you never know, I might be back or something like that, was to some degree talking about going back to Cleveland. And I think immediately
I think that was also whoever drafts my son was. I think that was kind of
that was well. Yes, yeah. He said a little bit of that, and immediately, like, what's it called? I think the next day, a couple days or a week later, like there was a story that came out that like Jeannie and Rob, they met with LeBron and Rich Paul and they talked to him. They said, "What's going on?"
And it's emphatically shut down. Yeah.
And I think Rich Paul made a statement afterwards, and he's just like, yeah, we talked to Jeannie and Rob. We let them know, he's just talking, doing an interview. So, again, we run into this situation now again. Obviously, the circumstances are very different. Luka is here. AD is gone. And so I'm very curious to see how this resolution is. Because for me personally, I don't know. Like, they have to make a statement, right? Like, something has to come out at some point. We have to find out that in some form, that LeBron and the Lakers front office, LeBron's camp and Lakers front office met, and they were like, "We're going to play out this season, or we're just going to take it game by game." Like something has to be said, right? They can't just leave it at this.
You would expect. I mean, I'm assuming the way this plays out is the Lakers make all their moves, and eventually, something comes publicly, maybe not officially, but some kind of public wording of. LeBron and the Lakers are on the same page, and LeBron is excited to go on a championship run with the roster that he has. I'm assuming that's kind of the way it's worded, but it is interesting. It is fascinating. The way that this has been set up is Rich Paul and LeBron's team will evaluate the roster and see if it's up to the championship level that they believe is needed to win. And again, I think LeBron is keyed into every decision in some capacity. Like the Lakers draft pick was a clutch client, so I'm sure they had some understanding of who was getting picked there. That's just one example, but yeah, I'd be interested, man. I have no clue, but I'm just assuming that LeBron's being involved, and where this isn't something where LeBron looks at the roster 2 weeks from now and is like, "What is this team?" Right?
Right.
Or so yeah, that there's communication that's going to be had at every stage of this. But the Lakers are an interesting point here. Like, you're right. Trading Rui does open up. It does make some difficult decisions. But yeah, I can't think of LeBron packages right now. I think it's too soon to kind of go through there. But this is the first time, Vinay, that I've heard multiple like Shams. You talked about Shams' report.
Yeah.
The Lakers or elsewhere. That's a huge door that is just flung open.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Lakers or elsewhere. What?
Oh. Yeah. And that's why I'm so fascinated to see how this resolves. Like, obviously, I don't think any Laker fan or even any Bron fan wants this to be a recurring story. It's going to be a recurring story, but nobody wants it to be a recurring story throughout the season. And anytime that the Lakers, have an issue or go on a 5-game slide or look like they can't beat contending teams, there's going to be conversations about, does Bron want to continue staying here? Are the Lakers actually a contender? Are they not a contender? That sort of thing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this kind of resolves itself. I'll do my best not to get in trouble on the timeline when stuff comes up. But
do you want to clarify your quote tweet where you
it was just
use the Bron?
I thought it was a funny GIF. I thought it was a really funny GIF. It wasn't like a look. I'm going to tell you the same thing. I was talking to Bansky. I'm gonna tell you what it was. You might not have a friend like this, but people who, whoever's watching this or listening to this might have a friend that everybody has, like, this friend in your friend circle that is like in a bad relationship with somebody. Like it happens over the course of the career.
Sure.
And you're always supportive of your friend. And you eventually find out that friend is in a relationship where, like, the other person is, like, emotionally blackmailing them all the time just to keep them in the relationship. And it's just like, at some point, you feel bad for your friend, but you're like, you know what, whatever, it is what it is. So, like, that GIF was
I just understood the reference. And
so that GIF was that GIF was like, all right, dude, if you're going to go, just go, bro. Like, I don't care. So it's not, so people take that as, I saw all the comments, at least for like the first 30 minutes. And then I went to sleep and I haven't looked at that tweet since that. But my thing is, like, we're 8 years into this, dude. Like, we're 8 years into this. Like, you can't keep doing this to us. You can't keep pulling this. Well, if you don't do this, I'm going to leave. Like, all right, bro, at this point, I don't care. I respect you as a player and I really, really want you to retire as a Laker. But I can't keep doing this, dude. Like, you can't keep threatening me with leaving. And then, like, how long am I going to keep doing this? And look, selfishly, I'm a Laker fan. I'm not a Genie fan or a Rob Pelinka fan. I'm a Laker fan. I know we have Luka on our team. So it's just like, all right, bro, if you're going to go, oh, well, go. So it's not I wasn't doing it to attack. And I know the Bron folks are very mad at me for that. But it's just like, all right, dude.
Yeah.
8 years, we didn't build enough equity for you not to do this to us anymore. You can't give us a chance. But it is what it is.
It's funny how much, like, that sentiment is around, actually, when you I guess you poll, people. And I don't think I don't think you're doing it with this, and I don't think most people are doing with a, like, all right, get him out of here. It's kind of
no.
Like, yeah, like, no, I understand. It's more like we respect your wishes, and, like, if this isn't the place that you want to close it out, then we kind of respect that decision. But it's also something where it can't be having, the franchise hands tied behind their back.
Yeah.
And so that's the part where it's interesting. But LeBron is so unprecedented that usually players of this age just don't have the the ability and the leverage to do this. But he's still at a position of power just in the league, and how well, just the accolades that he's still racking up, that he's able to pull these things that really prime superstars are pulling, right? Giannis loves to pretend he has no idea what's going on.
He's so full of crap, dude. He's crazy.
Like, just
him tweeting out that I don't know what's going on right before the game in the
Yeah.
Oh
So Giannis loves to pull it, but Giannis, I'm sure behind the scenes is very aggressive and is, making sure that the Bucks don't sit on their hands for a second. Right. They won the title a couple bad years, and Drew Holiday's on the team, and in comes Damian Lillard. So they just constantly flip their roster for him. But yeah, it's interesting. We'll see what happens with LeBron. I think most likely he still is on the team training camp. That just makes the most sense. Again, I don't think LeBron wants to leave Los Angeles. And that's part of what I think the Lakers have on him as well in this.
So the same analogy I just gave you, Raj, the analogy about that friend with the spouse, or not the spouse, but the partner that's always emotionally. What is the end result? Have you ever had a friend that's ever heard about stories about people that go through that situation? What is the usual end result to those situations?
It's usually not a good end. It's what usually doesn't end well. It's usually pretty messy, or sometimes they just keep coming back to each other in different points. They just continue to do this on off thing. So no, I guess you're saying the Lakers and LeBron have a very messy relationship.
I think it's getting. I think it's good when it happens behind closed doors, because there's you're not allowing other people into what the issues might be between the two parties. But when you make it public, it gets messy, because now everybody can see what's happening inside your house. And so I'm not saying things are going to end. I've seen it end two ways, Raj. I've seen it break up, and I've seen people get married. So it can happen both. It can go in either direction. Lakers could come back, and LeBron could come back and just be like, hey, you know what? You guys have done a really great job. If you guys want me to extend, I'm more than happy to extend, even if it's just for 1 year. And it might be a great thing. Or it could go in the other direction too as well. I'm not hoping for one or the other. I would just like it not to be in the public. I would like it to be behind closed doors. I don't want to know about it, Raj. That's the way I like to put it. I don't want to know mom and dad are fighting.
It feels like the Lakers thought there was a huge wedding party coming, and LeBron's like, no, we're pushing that a little bit farther. And so that's definitely probably made things interesting. But again, LeBron has earned the right to do what he wants at the end of his career.
He has the right to do it. Yeah.
And so, but the Lakers also, again, by getting Luka Doncic, have kind of upped their urgency of what they need to do with their franchise as well, right? And so that's, I think, where the tension is, and why you're seeing the public fighting. That's that's fighting. I don't know about fighting, but the public, I guess, need to win the narrative.
Game of chicken.
Of what's going on.
And posturing, I think, is
the posturing. You have new ownership as well, which is interesting to see how they act towards that, and they believe. And so if you want more of this, people listening, we did a whole show on this few days ago that we dabbled back into today. But the Lakers get DeAndre Ayton, man. That's the story today.
That is the story.
They got DeAndre Ayton and Jake Laravia in 2 days, who I need someone new, because I already wrote about DeAndre Ayton, and I already wrote about Jake Laravia that dropped this morning or yesterday. And wrote about
Silver Screen Roll. Where'd you write it?
Silver Screen Roll. And the draft pick already. So give me some more players, Lakers. Let's go sign some minimum. Just sign somebody I can go and delve into before summer league starts in 3 days. Vinay, we get basketball in 3 days,
right around the corner. Yes, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Like you said, DeAndre Ayton is the big win for the day. Obviously, Jake is here too as well. Summer league's around the corner. Hopefully, we get some more Laker transactions. Supposedly, we're supposed to be part of this big 7-team trade. I don't think it's 7 teams. I think it's probably going to be 3 teams as it relates to what the Lakers are going to be involved with. But it's exciting times. We finally got some life on the Lakers front. So I'm excited to see what happens. Folks, we appreciate everybody that was able to join us tonight. And know it was a late night. I'll make sure to get this up on Apple and Spotify. You can always play this back on YouTube if you don't want to wait until the upload. Like, share, comment, whatever you do. We appreciate it. I always read through it. Raj reads through it. We share it with each other in the chat. Whenever you're listening to this, if it's tonight or if you end up listening to this later in the day, we hope you have a great day or a great evening. And if nothing else, we'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.
Peace.